recording. So I'm just going to introduce Janelle and Steven here for those that haven't met them, or maybe some of you have, and they can tell you a little bit about themselves. So we have Janelle Waterman, who was on our customer service staff, and we promoted her to the environmental services coordinator. And then we have Steven Timblin. He's been with us since about May, I believe it was. And he has been an environmental services coordinator. Now we're just moving him into some of this AIS duties along with the timber and land sale administration. So I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit more, and then they will start the presentation.
All right, yeah, sure. My name is Steven Timblin. I am an environmental services coordinator here, as well as Jess had said. I started back in May and kind of worked a little bit with Nicole, but I didn't get to meet everyone quite yet. So I'm really glad to be here and put some faces to some names for you guys. So.
And I'm Janelle Waterman. As Jessica had stated, I came from customer service. And I had just started the end of November, or actually beginning of December, excuse me. So fresh into this role, but excited to meet you all, interact with you, and hopefully have a successful year moving forward.
Sure. All right. So I'll just dive right in here. So we're here today to talk about our 2023 AIS prevention plan and our budget proposals. So this is the agenda that we're looking at discussing today, starting off with the budget comparison and kind of moving through each of these topics. Here we show our breakdown of our budget on a pie chart from 2022's budget to the proposed 2023 budget. We had received this year $462,052 from the grant and have a rollover of funding from last year of $132,500. So the total composition that we have in this pie chart here is $594,552 broken down into each of these areas as shown here. We have inspection, decon, education and awareness, milk oil treatment, early AIS monitoring detection, and county staff coordination. So the county's goal this year is to have a minimum rollover, so we're trying to break it into each of those portions of spending. Here we want to kind of discuss the newly AIS infested waters in Crow Wing County that we experienced in 2022. We have a total.
Can we go back real quick? I just want to, for everybody online and stuff, if you know me, Gary Griffith, Land Services Director, if you don't know, I think a good highlight on this is I think we do a very good job with our administrative costs. So if you see in 2022, we actually had about 12% administrative costs. 2023, not only are we committing more resource with having 2 people to do a better job, and we're doing a good job. There was nothing there, but we're trying to improve our oversight of the program, do better outreach and relationship building with organizations, and we're going to do it and not take away hours of inspections. I think that's important for folks to kind of get the gist of the overall budget. Trying to increase inspections, wages and stuff you'll hear in a little bit, but continue to try to minimize that some of the money goes, when you have too much administration, a lot of the other aspects of your program can suffer. I think our budget, just as a number wise, Jess, if you can help me out, I think we're around like 59,000 allocated to administration in this budget. In comparison, take someone like County Cass. Cass is pushing 70,000. Not too much further away, but still more. They got a little bit bigger budget in all fairness. Not picking on Cass, but I just want to, for a frame of reference, how are we doing maybe with one of our bigger, or a neighbor with a program around our size? We think we're doing really good on trying to effectively get, as many inspections currently as we possibly can. Just so folks, frame of reference on that. Thanks, Stephen.
I'm gonna chime in too. Gary already spoke to Cass. They are, like he said, about just under 70,000 for admin costs, which is 13% of their allocated funds. Aiken, obviously a much smaller program. They get about 270,000 allocated from the state, and they budget 10% to admin costs. We're right kind of in line, a little less than Cass with the surrounding counties on the admin side.
So jumping into the AIS waters that recently got infested this last calendar year in 2022. Of the total number of water bodies in Crow Wing County, 734, we have 78 infested reported through the DNR. That's a total of 10.6% infested with any type of AIS. The water bodies that got infested this last year were with zebra mussels. We have bass, clear, clinker, East Rabbit, West Rabbit, Rabbit River, and Turner that got infested with zebra mussels this last year. Below, we have 2021 and 2020. Those will be available for your reference as well. Jumping into watercraft inspections, of our proposed budget of $594,552, we're budgeting, we'd like to budget $505,283 to have a total of 16,155 watercraft inspection hours on 43 lake accesses out of the total 149 public lake accesses in Crow Wing County. Prioritization of the inspections are going to be based off of a couple factors. One of them being Mazur's model, which is called AIS Explorer, shows boater traffic going to and from water bodies in our county. And it doesn't necessarily restrict that information to within Crow Wing County. If someone's coming from up in like Leech Lake, we have data from the Minnesota survey data that shows that we have boaters that are launching at our accesses that are coming from these other water bodies. So it kind of plays that into consideration and what those other lakes are infested with. We also take into consideration the average boats per hour that are getting inspected at launches from 2020 through 2022 at 43 of these lake accesses as well. Here we have our 2023 Crow Wing County watercraft inspection locations. What we'll notice here is that some of these are red, orange, yellow, and green. That's just a cascade of the risk analysis that we've established to them. The high-risk lake accesses will be open for Friday to Sunday allocations, beginning fishing opener and ending Labor Day weekend. Medium risks are Saturday and Sunday, beginning fishing opener and ending Labor Day weekend. Low risk is Saturday and Sunday, starting a little later on Memorial weekend and ending Labor Day weekend as well. The very low risk landings, which we have 4 of, are going to be staffed on the 3 holiday weekends, Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day. And we are intending on hiring a lead inspector to assist with inspector check-ins, kind of have some administrative oversight on the inspector presence at the landings as well.
Just a quick question. So do you have access, for example, we'll use Cross Lake, the Southwest. So do you have statistics on, and you probably do, on the number of boats coming through there year over year, just out of curiosity? And do you track the ones that that were bringing in infected, AIS?
Yeah.
Do you track that?
We do have some data trends using the survey data. So
Okay.
when we have a boater launching, if it does get turned away for, like, say there's zebra mussels on the propeller,
Right.
that gets added into a survey count and we have that data. So if you'd like to inquire, about specifics, we can certainly take that question and get you some info. So.
Okay, well, I think that would be interesting because I think that helps us develop what we will need for inspectors over the coming year.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Next chart that we've prepared here is an inspection trends chart. So we have seen a steady decline in staffing over the last 4 seasons, which would be a 30% decrease from the peak here in 2019, where we had, let's see, I think we had right around 63 inspectors that season. to what we saw this last season at around 44 inspectors that we hired. All the while, being that we have less bodies at the accesses, our inspection counts are declining. So what we have proposed are a couple of different things that we've received in feedback from our wrap-up presentation in 2022, such as inspector wages. So we have a staffing proposal that we prepared here showing proposed new wages being $17 an hour for first and second year inspectors, $18 an hour for third year returning inspectors, and $19 an hour for the lead inspector. In order to staff all of our landings in our plan at 100%, we would need a minimum of 44 inspectors to be hired. And our goal is to get 60 people on board to kind of mitigate, call-ins or people getting sick, time off requests, things of that nature, the unforeseeables. And then we would also like to talk about an expanded coverage requests and get some clarification on that for people that might have questions as well.
Yeah, and I was gonna jump in on that, we had, I guess, I want to say a miss, I guess, with an understanding on how expanded coverage gets reimbursed and how we're going to handle that. So one of the asks from the county board was when they get to this decision, they want it very clear on how it's handled in the future, so we don't have what happened this season. And so currently in this proposal that we have with the county board is that expanded coverage requests are solely funded, and I want to repeat, solely funded by the Lake Association or LID that had requested them. Any excess hours that, or any hours that weren't covered in our plan that were assigned to a landing will have no bearing on expanded coverage requests as far as reimbursement. So what we're proposing to send to the county board is when a lake association or a LID, somebody has requested expanded coverage, that is on their dime over and above what we're doing with this program. So that's just really clear. I just want to make sure that's clear. I'm not saying we're the decision makers on that. I know there probably be some further discussion with the county board on why some may feel that that's maybe not the best way to handle, let's say an underage, I call it, because we wouldn't have had staff. But our main goal is to have minimal rollover, period. And so we really want to focus on getting enough staff that this hopefully won't be maybe a question or a concern moving forward, I guess anyways, but nonetheless, if it did happen where we still had excess monies, whether it came from inspections or people, lake associations didn't request for Milford treatments, or we got a really good deal on some brochures that we're handing out. I don't know. Budget is not an exact science with everybody. There's some flex in there. And when there's overages, and we don't spend the 460 on an annual basis, our proposal to the county board is we use that money, and that's what we keep our equipment usually updated with. And that's how we're going to try to move forward with what we've historically done in the past. But has anybody got any questions out there or here on where we're at with expanded coverage requests? We can definitely have Jessica here to talk about how they're billed and the timeliness of when we would like to see reimbursement, because it's very ineffective to say, oh, Lake X, you want to have 300 extra hours over and above what we're supplying to your access. But we're not sending anybody until we get a check. What our goal is to try to have a seamless, yep, we'll keep scheduling and stuff. And it's a, on your honor type of thing that you will reimburse for those hours that you requested that we do send staff out there, if that makes sense.
Tony has a.
You knew I'd comment on this.
Yes, I figured, Tony, yeah.
Uh, and obviously I disagree with that decision, and we would make that comment to the county board. But my other question though, and Gary, it goes back to the discussion you and I had earlier this year, but it would have to do with the staffing. And I agree that if you're fully staffed the way you're intending, this whole issue of overage or underage, however you want to put it, goes away. My question is there any provisions in the program to make sure that you get to the staffing levels that you need?
Well, I guess, what do you mean provisions? What we're asking here on the, for the staffing is where the proposal is $2 an hour increase in the per hour wage that we pay. That's how we believe that'll attract more inspectors.
Okay, but would there be other possible ways, other marketing tactics, other ways that you could actually get to the levels that you need to get them to? And are those going to be considered, or is it just going to be the typical ways that you've tried to recruit,
Sure.
In the past?
Yeah, so like, there has been ideas like, oh, what if we paid mileage? Well, instead of having another whole separate accounting for someone's mileage, we think if you pay them enough right out the gate, mileage isn't a concern or a bonus somehow. We think the best way to recruit and retain employees is to pay a very competitive wage in the first place. So while definitely, Tony, there are still those ideas floating out there or difference of opinions on how to try to attract employees. Currently, what you're going to see here today is there is none in the current proposal for the county board. Now, today's discussion, and we're out for 30-day public comment, by all means, folks want to go, we really feel strongly that you should pay, and I'm just picking on mileage because I've heard that one in the past. There's definitely pros and cons to some of that stuff. I'm not saying it's right or wrong there. It's just kind of a strategy thing. And I just share with you, I feel strongly that we put our best foot forward in getting as much money in the pocket of that employee right out the gate and not trying to go, yeah, no, we'll pay you mileage over here. And that just gets even more taxing on the staff where we're trying to do other things with the program, I guess, too. But it's just more of a philosophy, not a right or wrong, if that makes sense, Tony.
Yeah, it does. I do know in my discussions with the folks at Cass County, while they use a outside vendor to do it, they were able to fully staff this year. So that is something that we have to take a look at in terms of how that employment agency was able to get those inspectors versus how we are actually recruiting to get inspectors. I don't know what the answer is either, Gary, but I just think we have to be sure to be open to all the possibilities in terms of how we recruit inspectors.
No, I agree with you. And I don't want to go back and forth, but I do want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples here and not get this twisted. If we only had 20 accesses and that's what's in our plan, we wouldn't have this issue. We have the most robust spread out program in the state. So they have a different way they want to do it in Cass. They want to pay the $6 an hour to a third party vendor. We're trying to keep that money and put it back into inspections and have 44 accesses, not 20. And so it's not apples to apples just to say, well, they got fully staffed. Well, we've been fully staffed too if we said we cut this program down by half and that's all we're going to do. Just to be fair with that comparison. And that's how I had to say it, Tony.
I have a comment regarding the schools and if you pursued that in the past. I'm now in Minnesota in the environment class at CLC, and there are 38 in that class. And one kid who was on there where we had to do the intro, he says, I'm in the program only because my parents are forcing me in or whatever. And then I thought, well, that's why I need to be in this class so I can at least give some input, but it's all online, so it's hard. But it's just that, look, there's potential there of just their insight into natural resources and the environment it's just awesome, this video I watched last night in the course. It's just on the environment, and it's just that knowledge base.
Yeah, and it's not that we're not gonna go to some different job fairs, and we're gonna send, we'll see later on here. Instead of just having one person that we stretch pretty thin, trying to get to different activities or events, or I'll pick on Wacola, they usually have a couple of different things, and they, they'll ask for, you have a staff that wants to come up. With what we're doing with the staffing model now, I think we can go to more schools, better outreach, attend more different outside organization things to hopefully get more interest in the program, start to build more collaboration, and not only fill slots for our inspectors, but have a better understanding what we're really trying to accomplish with the overall program. So that we do have some ideas on some of that. As I could stand a little corrected, I still believe in, let's pay the right wage so that if somebody's considering Burger King and us for the summer, they go, oh, geez, I can make another $1 or $2 of it. It starts to be a lot easier decision for somebody to come work for us, and maybe a higher quality caliber person too. But I will say, for reference, I just heard the DNR sent out their recruitment packet. First year employee, you want to go work for the DNR for the summer, $15.50. So if we have the same person, we're competing, and almost kind of competing with yourself, because we have the same goals as the DNR, right? They're our overseer. $15.50 to work DNR, $17 now to come work for Crow Wing County if the board takes this proposal. I think that is going to give us a competitive advantage, I think. So we should hopefully see this uptick in staff, and hopefully some of these concerns that we have, maybe we won't have the concerns, I know I'm an optimist, I get that.
Just noting it in the county vibes, when I've been at a meeting, I can see that Mr. Hool's got interest in increasing the wage, so.
Yeah.
And on that outreach too to the schools, so when there's a program that the county is a part of, when they post a job, it's called this handshake. It goes out to tons of colleges. CLC was just signing up for that last year, so I reached out to them personally and said, hey, can you post this? I know you're working on getting to be a part of this, so you get notified when we post jobs. So they were able to hang up flyers and get notices out within the school. And then last year, we also reached out, found contacts at each of the area high schools, because our hiring age is 17 or older, and reached out to all of them. And I got responses from about 80% of them back saying, yes, we'll post this, we'll get this out to our students. So doing more of that proactive.
Many of these high school students are also in the community college program to get that, so that's that link in there, and I see that there too.
Yep, we're definitely reaching out
And,
more.
and I know it takes more manpower on your guys' side, or on your guys' side, but when we think of going out to the high schools, I don't think a poster is gonna do it. Sometimes it's gotta be that face-to-face thing, and appeal to that emotional side of you that's gonna save the planet.
Yeah.
So if we could figure out a way to do that, that would be. I have.
We had you on staff and sent you around. I could help.
Well, I was gonna say, I could use my speech that I gave to the Disloyal Women's Club.
Tim online has his hand up. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, a two-part question. Is there a procedure, or what is the procedure for making a request that Lake Association is happy to pay for additional inspections? And if there's more requests than there's staffing available, do you have a procedure or a strategy in mind on how you'll prioritize and how you'll satisfy that, or decide which spots will get coverage and which spots won't?
Sure, yes, I can speak to that. We have a policy on our expanded coverage request. We actually added it as an addition to our plan this year. So it's attached to our proposed AIS plan that's out there. So in about March, we will finalize, after the board approves and decides what we're gonna go with for sure on our hours. We set up our schedule with our hours that we're gonna staff the landings Friday through Sunday typically. And then we send that out to all the lake associations along with that policy, and it lays out, I'm not going to go into detail, but it lays out how we prioritize staffing. So it'll be our high risk landings, medium risk, low risk, very low risk, then expanded coverage, and it lays that out in there. And so we send that out in March, requesting, saying, here's our schedule, would you like any expanded coverage? You send those requests back, and then we just double verify the numbers, the hours that you gave us, what the billing rate would be, and say, okay, here is what you're signing up for. Is this what you would like us to move forward with? You say yes or no, we work through that. And then we add those hours into that master schedule, as we call it. And then as we have the staff available during those, essentially would be weekday hours, we will fill those hours and then bill you monthly for the hours that were filled in the prior month. Does that
Thank you.
answer your question?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Any other hands up out there? Okay. Any other questions on that, or we'll have Stephen keep rolling on any of that stuff? That's one of the expanded coverage is a thing that whatever the county board does decide, I hope that it'll just be black and white as we can have it, and we can all move forward and keep picking zebra mussels off our bullets.
Next, we're going to dive into our decontamination portion of our plan. This year, we would like to allocate $43,581. Involved in that allocation is the desire to purchase a second mobile decon station. This second mobile decon station will hopefully have a reclaim mat, a full reclaim mat that will allow us to place it at landings where we're currently not able to. DNR kind of has some restrictions as to where they can be. And right now we have only 5 accesses that we can put our mobile decon at that we currently have. And it's our belief that having a presence of mobile decontamination stations will allow us to have a larger presence in the county and simultaneously be more efficient with our staffing rather than having someone at a standalone permanent decontamination station. We kind of like to trend towards having that person with the mobile decon, doing inspections, doing decons at a landing, and hence being a little bit more efficient with the funds that were allocated. Also, we would like to increase education and info for decontamination units through advertisements like get your boat cleaned, whether it's at the access or through other forums.
Can you give us an approximate dollar amount on the cost of the unit itself, of both of the?
Like for
matted
the
one and
decon and the
yeah.
mat, yes.
It was 44,000 and some change for the full unit.
That's with the mat.
Mhm.
I think the mat was like $8,000.
Okay, so that 43, whatever that you're allocating, how does that include the labor or the inspector, or is that totally separate? I mean, that doesn't sound like enough
Sorry.
money then to cover.
I was thinking that amount. It's 25,
Okay.
24,000 and some
Okay.
change. Sorry.
Sounds more labor. Okay, and the mat itself was about 8,000, you said?
Yes.
Was that 24 with the mat?
24,000 is the whole new unit with the reclaimed mat.
Yep,
but
and the
if we
mat
were
is
to
about
buy the
8,000
mat
of
itself,
24.
yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
So is that 43.5 part of the 75% here?
Nope, that's its own piece of that pie.
Okay.
So that would be the orange portion.
Oh, the decam, oh, sure. Okay, sorry, yeah.
Tim, did you have another question?
I did not, no.
Okay. David, you were, or no, Jeff?
Yeah, this is Jeff Davidge. So I have a question on your rollover of $132,500 from 2022 into this year. That's over 25% of that total from 2022. Is that just because you could not find enough inspectors? Why was that?
Yeah, that was the big ticket item last year. We just could not get staff to come work for us. That was a domino effect on basically having leftover funds from last year.
And so next year,
Because
that's not.
You can see where you have a total inspection form from 2020, 2021 and 2022. It's just a downhill trend here. And it's not going in a good direction, I might add.
I want to speak, we agree with you 100%. That's not the direction we want to go. We would like to see more inspections. Obviously, we need more staff. But there's little things we can do, like on a mobile decon, we can do inspections and decons at basically the same time. Instead of paying somebody hour after hour and getting 2 boats a day or 3 boats a day, we can be better stewards of the money and have that staff at a landing doing inspections. Is the way we're going to try to trim some of this too, to assist some of that. I'm going to say correcting that sharp from just having a downward trend on that and bringing it back up. And hopefully we can do it really quick.
I could see the your hours here in Cross Lake, but that's not where the boats come out. I mean, people do not want to decant whatever.
You know,
People don't want to take their boats to those stations. They're coming out of the water, and they're usually pretty much in a hurry to get wherever they want to go or get out of the water. So you know, it's an opinion of mine that it's better allocated if you get inspectors when people are coming out of the water first, instead of making them go to one of your areas where they spray their boat down. That's just my opinion.
sure. Thank you for that.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Just before Tony has his hand up, but one thing on that rollover, yes, 98% of it was the staffing. Another small chunk, it was just a few thousand, is our grants that we give out for that Eurasian water milfoil and new last year, which we're proposing it to do again this year, is that STAR research. Just lake associations, we plan for X amount of lake associations to apply for this grant money. And if one doesn't, that also attributes to our rollover. So we highly encourage you to take advantage of these funds we're giving you guys, or not giving you, for Eurasian water milfoil, for STAR research, or any other grant opportunities that we share with you. We highly encourage you to apply for them. If you need any help, reach out to us. And okay, Tony, go ahead.
Sure. I have a question in relation to, now that I see that the decon unit is down under the decon, under general operating supplies. I noticed that the supplies and equipment up under inspections, the inspection category has jumped from $7,000 in 2022 to $65,300 in 2023. Can you give me an idea of why that number went up so high in that?
Yeah, we're going to touch on that in just a little bit. Some more improvements we'd like to make. If you have more questions, if we don't hit it all, just reach out again and we can expand on it. But we have that here in a couple slides.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And real quick to touch on our staffing of like the Cross Lake permanent decon, we're planning on starting that around Memorial Weekend through Labor Day weekend, Friday through Sunday. Those hours would be 9 to 6 and closed weekdays. So.
All right, regarding education and awareness, we propose to allocate $10,200 to this. What that looks like is what we had touched on earlier, reaching out to public schools, youth groups, trying to get people to get engaged and participate, be a part of our team here and get people out at the landing. So that's also by way of updating our outreach materials, and Steve and I doing some presentations as well. We have funds granted up to 25 lake associations, as Jessica had touched on, to participate in the county STAR research program. And we also will contribute to the Starry Trek event, that's our statewide event, and host Starry Trek here at the county. And then just a side note at the bottom there, Mazurk is offering an AIS management. There is registration, it's now available. So if you are interested in that, follow that link there. So to get into the STAR research, we are offering or propose to offer Lake Association's a $300 incentive per surveyed public lake access that they search for starry stonewort and other AIS. The sampling season would be June through August, and the $300 incentive will really go towards the cost of building the rake, compensating members' time and monthly reports. And just so everybody knows, county staff will create a step-by-step manual on the sampling procedure and reporting, and we'll also have hands-on training with the Lake Association members on sampling, AIS ID, and reporting. And the goal really is, currently there's no starry stonewort in the county. So the goal is to be ahead of it so we can react if it is found. So in lieu of that, looking back to last year's plan in comparison to this year, we are increasing that incentive from $200 to $300. And we would like to budget a $5,000 annual reserve so that we can be ready to act if infestation does occur in the county.
Yeah, I just want to jump in on this for a little context too. So I know nobody's in favor of what, $5,000 and you're not going to do anything with it? And are you going to let that build? The goal here is if a lake has starry stonewort, if we find that this summer, and let's pray we don't, but if we do, if we don't have anything ready to react to that, and it's next season, if you kind of get the concept. So by having money ready to mobilize, you could say, and try to treat this thing, as soon as we found it, this would be ready to go. If we continue to be lucky here in Crow Wing and we don't have starry stonewort, the plan would be to utilize this 5,000 and go look at these landings that are low risk, very low risk, and or where we have like limited data, and potentially use that money to send inspectors out to those landings to gain more data to inform our decisions with that overall risk assessment and galvanize any holes or anything we've had in that in years past to continue to improve the data to help us inform our decisions in the future. So that's the idea here. Obviously, we take any questions, good, bad, or ugly on good idea, man, that's, I think that's an overreaction or not. Would we appreciate comments from everybody?
I have a comment, since we had 4 accesses and we got $800. Well, we figured we had it, we couldn't find it in the budget, but anyway. What is our total of doing that this year? Or how many responded to your request last year, and if there was any reserve in that, because did the lakes participate totally or not?
Oh, good question.
They did not. It was, of the 25, it was 17. So I know 25 is landings. So there's 17 landings. And I believe it was 10 or 11 lake associations, public associations. So they did not all. Some, I don't remember who, they came to our meeting where Nicole taught, like, kind of went through the plan and what we need you to do and did some education, but they did not submit for reimbursement. So there was a little bit of rollover. It was very minimal, like $500, $1,000 maybe, if that. But that's one of those things, yeah, like use these funds. We're trying to help, do what we can.
So the idea is on our part, we have that money. So how can we go about and do starry education or something with that regard? If there's any insights there, I would like that feedback at some point so that we could utilize that money in that way.
So what you're saying, Sue, is that you would apply for a grant?
Last year we had 4 accesses, we got
Right.
$200 per access, so we got $800.
Okay, yeah.
We paid minimal for the rake and
Yeah.
so we
Right.
have money
Right.
that, and also just leads to like what Whitefish has as a reserve for AIS, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna start that also. But we need some ideas of how we can not just be at a landing, but we're also gonna maybe post some stations where we have literature like Gull does, but not as big. So that's just ways of educating, because no way do we need this no way we can't have this in our life.
I think that's the hardest thing to figure out is the education piece.
Yeah.
That's just tough.
Yeah, we'll
And-
definitely share.
And am I correct in thinking that the best way to react quickly to it is still mechanical harvest? Is that still the?
Yes, for Starry it is. We're hoping that they can figure out some kind of herbicide that can be more along the lines of what you can do with Eurasian water milfoil. But currently it's mechanical harvesting for this, yeah.
So I'm all for the $5,000. I mean, that's not gonna go far if you find it in any lake. It's not gonna go far at all, but having that reserve, I think is a great idea.
Yeah, and the idea would be, we have something to see what we can do right away. And then once we find it now, we would really, how we have a treatment program, Starry Stonewort would show up as part of our treatment program then if we ever get it. This is kind of, let's see if we can really we want to be ready if something bad, shows up. And then it's a little bit of a different conversation if it does hit in our county, and how we're going to try to combat it.
So do you have any idea on what the cost would be in any other lakes that have stony, or whatever we're talking about?
Starry
Stony, on what the cost of mechanical removal is?
We do not.
At this time, not. So
That would be interesting because, that 5,000 budget may be a drop in the bucket when we find out
It is.
actually how much.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it was trying to, I guess, make everything work, but
Well, I mean, I think this is a good start. You have to
Yeah,
start
yeah.
someplace.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
I
And
can
I
tell
do think more to come with, you hate to say it, more lakes are getting it. There are more lake associations are definitely harvesting and stuff. And we easily can get out there and get some more data on what would we be up against? It's gonna be around the access to mobilize a puller right there and what that would all cost.
back in 2019 on Upper South Lawn, we had, at the beginning of our Eurasian milfoil, we brought in some mechanical divers in addition to the chemical treatment. And we spent over $3,000 on just a small bed.
Right.
So it's
costly.
It's
Well, I think
costly.
Bay Lake,
Okay.
how much has Bay Lake spent on milfoil?
It's tons.
It's tons of money.
Yeah. They have so much money, they don't even keep track. Right? It's like what If you're on the blind bait, I was just kidding. Just kidding.
Bill's on there.
Well, I read that Lake Coronas, had like $160,000.
Well, see, and I read
Ready
that.
to go?
I read that.
No,
too. No,
their cost. on
Oh,
it
that was their
annually.
cost.
Jeepers.
And that was Starry Stoneworth. I read that too.
Yeah.
And I think that was just one year,
Yes,
wasn't
yes,
it? That was
yeah.
1 year of treatment.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that was all mechanical treatment at that time because they were trying some other stuff.
It's too bad it couldn't be used for like cattle feed or something, to make some money out of it.
For a good fertilizer. Right.
And real quick, Starry Stonewort is kind of an aggressive species. Just pulling out this portion of the plant doesn't suffice. What it actually proliferates from are these bulbils that are in the sediment. So to completely eliminate a plant, you have to actually get this guy out of the soil, beneath all that muck and sediment. So
Yeah.
it is an aggressive thing and we just like to be prepared.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so to jump into milfoil treatments, we would propose to allocate 32,500. And this money will go towards a survey and then all treatments for the control of Eurasian water milfoil, up to 3,500 total per lake on 9 eligible infested lakes with a public access. For example, Lake Ossawinamakee and Emily Lake, they've had successful treatments and they've had little to no Eurasian water milfoil found thereafter. So in their case, we would approve $500 to go towards a survey to be conducted on those 2 lakes.
And just a note on this, as some of you might recognize, 3,500, that is an increase of $1,000 over what we had last year. This could potentially be a one-time increase. So this is where we looked at using some of that rollover funds also. So this is about a $10,000 increase in our budget right here. It's just getting you guys another $1,000 to treat this treat this Eurasian water milfoil.
All right, so this is a map that we had received the data from Mazurk. We had compiled it in-house. This is a zebra mussel infestation risk score map. The range starts from 0 and it goes to 1, 1 being already infested. So you can see, according to this map, the lakes, unfortunately in red, are already infested with zebra mussels. Similarly, we have a starry stonewort map as well. Thankfully, no infestation in Crow Wing County. So there's no lakes in red, but the risk from 0 to 1.
And how they get this risk is using that traffic, like Stephen was talking about earlier. Where is the traffic coming from? So the lakes that are infested with starry, where are they going after they leave that lake? Like Mille Lacs, Gull, Leech, coming from Leech.
Yeah.
That's how they get this risk assessment, is looking at where the boats are coming from. Are they coming from those starry infested lakes, and what lakes are they going to?
So regarding early AIS detection, we would propose to allocate $2,900 to go towards this. This would be where we would look for zebra mussel, veliger, and spiny water flea. So we would conduct some sampling. What that looks like is we would take some water samples from up to 25 lakes that are uninfested by zebra mussels and do some water testing. And then for spiny water flea, we would do sampling up to 10 lakes that are currently uninfested. And this sampling would be conducted in the month of July.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we already have zebra mussels, but this, when it says up to 10 lakes that are uninfested, does that mean they're uninfested for spiny water fleas?
Yes,
Okay,
Yep.
so we can still test for the spiny water fleas.
Yep, so when we send this, we do this every year. This is not a new program, but we send it out to those lake associations that qualify. We have the bottles. Some of you obviously have already done this, and you come pick them up, bring them back, and we get them tested for you.
and we kind of, spiny water fleas in Mille Lacs, so we're kind of, the either like gull, it seems like those walleye fishermen like to kind of go from one to the other, and then other, closer lakes to that area go, geez, is it spreading from Mille Lacs around any of those first kind of closer lakes in proximity, trying to, which 10 lakes should, maybe get tested first.
All those dang fishing contests.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do, to touch on that too, we do hope to increase our presence at those landings during those fishing tournaments, to be out there with the public as well. To summarize kind of what this year looks like for us, we talked about increasing the watercraft and inspector wages. Steve touched on purchasing that second mobile decontamination station. We really want to emphasize and utilize that mobile station to get us to more landings, to more accesses. And with that, we would like to create some educational kiosks at our Crow Wing County landing. So what that looks like is putting some AIS information on there, getting the word out to the public. So we create a presence, even if staff is not physically able to be at those Crow Wing County landings. We would also similarly like to create more simplified educational handouts. That was some feedback we received last year. People wanted something that was tangible and able to visually read it and not be overwhelmed with information, but that would be handy to pass out to the public. And also, as you know, with Steve and I, the county is dedicated to increasing the staff and our presence at the landings this year.
And Tony, this is what I was talking about with that extra funding in those supplies and materials. That's where that budgeted line item is for these kiosks at our Crow Wing County landings. We currently have that one on the bottom left there that protect our lakes. We have those signs at some of our landings right now. And then the bottom left of that picture, we have like a little red checkbox on what the lake might be infested with. We have no more of those signs to put at our landings, and some of them are getting pretty weathered and torn, not torn, but so we were looking at getting new ones of those anyway. So we took this opportunity to try to standardize our signing at our landings, kind of like our parks and trails. They have kind of the same standardized signing and simplified so that when we don't have a presence, we don't staff very many of our Crow Wing County owned landings with inspectors. Then we would have this information out there for them to easily look at, see what's going on at the lake, give them some AIS information. So that is a big bulk of that supplies and materials increase, as well as a lot of our flags are torn and kind of really don't look very good. So we did a really deep dive or really deep look at our flags, our vests, all of our inspector supplies that we give to them to really spend some of this extra money and take that, okay, now is the time to get some of these supplies updated and for them. Does that help explain your question earlier, Tony?
It does. It does. I'm more of the opinion that the county dollars should be spent towards this as opposed to state-sponsored grant money that's for inspections and actual treatment. But I do like some of this, and so my question is going to be: are you actually talking about building those kiosks that you show in the middle picture there at the landings?
Something similar, yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might not be as robust, but similar. This is one that's currently at, I believe, French Rapids.
Yeah.
So this is kind of one of our parks and landings ones that we currently have. It might not be quite as robust, maybe only 2 panels to save on cost is what we were kind of initially looking at and budgeted for.
And maybe where you have a larger number of boats going in, you have a little bit more robust thing, and then at a smaller. And I do like this poster, Protect Our Lakes. We did and I gave them to, what's his name, Jake, round stickers.
Oh.
I said, protect our waters. How? And, but the one thing that I liked on it was, it's, I think, how do we get the people to be responsible for that water, not just go in and enjoy it? And so one of the things we put on it was, it's your lake too. You know, so it's changing that emotional feeling towards that lake. Hey, this is your water. Right?
And one further question on that, Jessica, would that those kiosks, would they then go at, we have 6, 7 landings on the chain. Would you be, Pelican has 4 landings. Would you be putting a kiosk at each of the landings, or will you have sufficient funds to do that? I guess is my question.
These would just be at Crow Wing County owned landings because there's a lot of hoops to jump through and permits needed
DNR
to
stuff,
put them
yeah.
at the other DNR owned landings.
Yeah.
So these would just be county owned landings. There's currently 18 that the county owns and manages. So like Jones Bay, for example, and Pelican would be one.
And the DNR is very particular
Oh,
about
boy.
what's up on,
Yeah,
what's
that's-
on their kiosk.
It took us 2 years to get this little sign, Tony, about this big, and then we wanted to do these surveys, and that was just a flat out no.
Yep.
I mean, anytime we wanted to do something at a DNR landing, it's rough trying to get any approval there.
We did get approval for the decon signs that are now out there about our texting service, but
Yeah.
that was about a year
So
process to get.
Jones's Bay would not allow us to even put well, now we don't need a kiosk if you're going after them, but I know Breezy was interested in, so would be our personal funds for that.
And that
But
that
then
increase-
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think that increases my trepidation about spending this much money on those kiosks and things, because with spending it on the AIS money on these things, if they're at the county-owned landings and not going to be used at all the landings, and I understand that the difficulty in getting them there, but I think that the monies that you're using are monies that were going to go for inspections and should have continued to do that.
Sure. I'm gonna write you down as anti-sign.
We all need one like Tony.
You've pegged me correctly.
Yeah, you can go ahead. You've had your hand up for a bit.
Yeah, I was wondering, if we build these kiosks, who will manage them? I see a lot of kiosks at the state-owned properties like the one at Upgard Wildlife Management Area right across from where I live, that nobody seems to do anything on on the bulletin boards or anything, and that's another problem. Not only the kiosks, how much they cost, the problem is on DNR landings and also the upkeep or maintenance of these, because they tend to get pretty shabby looking after a while.
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to say that the plan is that this gets rolled into our Parks and Recreation area. Once they're constructed, we will take the ownership and responsibility of maintenance and upkeep. We already have, maintenance and upkeep at the accesses with our staff. A couple have, vaulted toilets at them already. And this would be rolled into that maintenance program that we already have in existence.
Okay, thank you.
So it's one of those, it's maybe not the easiest to maybe understand, but it's another way that the county is trying to step up and contribute. Maybe it's not always like, here's the stack of cash, and trust me, that's the easy way. But to make the commitment to continue to put effort, and leverage other things the county can bring to bear to enhance our program is the way we see this program. It's more, intertwined than I think some folks think it is.
All right, so the next steps are, we are currently in a public comment period right now up to February 6th. So we would love feedback on this proposed plan. Get your comments submitted to us. And then once all the comments are received by us and the comment period does end, we will sit down as staff and respond to your comments that you've provided to us. And the county board will see this proposed plan February 14th. For approval, it'll go before them. And with that, we would love to take any further questions from you folks.
Yeah, if you've never seen a real muscle car, that's a real muscle car. But just to clarify, any comments that are sent to Land Services, the commissioners see them all. We try to respond to them, of course. Some of them were like, oh, we can't really respond to that maybe, but most of them we do. But just, there's sometimes confusion or concern. Well, if I send you my comment, is the decision maker going to see it? I can commit to you, absolutely. That's our process, that anything that comes to us, we just package it up, right? Just put it in a easily, hopefully consumable format for them. They get it along with the plan. And then of course, if you go back, I think is that February 14th?
Yep.
Is that Valentine's Day?
Yep.
Yes.
So they're gonna show, the AIS plan some love that day, I guess, And does anybody know which lake out of the Whitefish chain that muscle car came out of?
Cross.
I don't know.
Well, I know, because we used to have a thing, where somebody puts their car out in the middle of the lake, and then there's like, everybody can say, well, this is the date that the car is gonna be pulled, the car's gonna drop. You forgot to pull it out.
It came out of Pig Lake.
Is there any other questions for anybody while we have the meeting going? If there's any questions that you didn't get answered, we're more than happy to answer them now. Always can reach out to us if you think of something later, or you see a graph or something, you're like, oh, I wasn't thinking about this. What does this mean? Or, of course, all comments are welcome. That's kind of the deal that we try to do every year. And I think it's healthy to agree to disagree on some of this stuff. And of course, everybody gets their comments to the board and they make their decisions, right?
Just out of curiosity, what did we get, or what did you guys get from the state legislature last year?
What did we get?
Well, yeah, the allocated.
462, I think.
Okay, so we don't know, so what is it in 20?
No, so it got reduced this year. Last
That's
year we
okay.
got 462,902.
That's
This
okay.
year we're getting 462,052.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking, because I was thinking, well, with that $17 million budget, Why are,
It's only 10 million, I think.
No,
Four.
like their surplus.
their
like you're talking
surplus,
about.
their surplus,
Oh.
17 billion.
I've
Oh,
seen
billion.
some
I think.
chatter that there's people pushing, the higher ups than us, that are pushing to get this increase, because it's been at $10 million allocated to the counties
Since its
since
inception.
14.
Yeah.
They've never increased that. So I know there's push on that and a lot of other issues to use this money for purposes like AIS or other natural resource uses.
Are you gonna be at Eggs and Issues?
I usually
Friday?
stay away from there.
Well,
but-
this would be, this would be a good year for you to attend.
Yeah, well, and wouldn't that be something, let's just say hypothetically, they go from 10 to 20 million. And if all that was a straight, everybody doubled their, a grant amount. I mean, want to talk about just doing Friday, Saturday and Sunday, our core, it could be maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or, I mean, the
Exactly.
expansion of the program could greatly be enhanced. It's just that you got, let's just say $500,000 and how many lakes do we have in this county? And you're trying to give, and it's not the easiest thing, but nonetheless, I think, like Ruth and Susan and Tony, you guys are all getting used to being told no, aren't you finally, I think?
No, okay, I still have two questions.
Oh, sure, Ruth.
Okay, fishing tournaments. If we're staffed regularly Friday through whatever, so if we want this fishing tournament covered, do we put in way ahead of time for possible tournaments under expanded coverage? I mean, I assume we paid for that.
Actually with fishing tournaments, what we try to do, if it's on a regular schedule, Saturday, usually during weekends, if we have the staff, we plan to have a mobile decon there if possible. So there's the mobile decon and our inspector, and then either one of our lead or one of these two, or a second inspector if we have enough staff. We always try to have 2 people there if we know it's gonna be a big tournament. As well as like the DNR puts out that big list of their fishing tournaments. We look at that and we're like, okay, we want the mobile decon here. We know there's a tournament. And then we make sure at least one of our lead staff or our coordinators here are also at that landing at least part of the day when we know it's starting or when we know it's ending to help that inspector. So as long as we know as far as ahead of time as we do, our schedule at least 2 weeks prior to the date, we
So if
try
we're
to
already
get.
staffed on that Saturday, we don't worry about extra that we have,
It
that
would
we have
be
to
an
pay
extended
even
coverage.
if you have 2
Correct.
people that come? Okay. Okay, and then my second question was years ago, we put counters at those
Mhm.
accesses. Are those still used? Do we know if if they even work anymore, if they're even there anymore?
They work, we have them.
But you still
We
use
did
them?
not install them last year. We had them installed for a few years, got a lot of really good data. We still continue to kind of use that data to see when the traffic is. We did not install them last year. Our plan is not to install them this year, but we still have them. They still work. We're using them for other purposes as well.
Yeah, the plan is like if a lake association has let's just say an issue or concern with the data we used for the allocation, the high, medium, low, or very low risk. And they say, I think you're short, and we've had this with a couple, we will take a car counter if we have inspectors out there already, we kind of have the data,
Sure.
But if we had those, where they haven't been getting inspections and they're like, I just think we're so busy, we should be getting some of the hours. That's when we've been deploying the car counters to supplement maybe some of the gaps, if that makes sense. And the other thing we've actually been using them a lot in our parks and trails area to get data for the commissioners to go, you want to put more money in that park? You want to enhance this trail? So we've kind of used them in other fashions too.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Phil?
I do. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation and the time. We have had on our access an eyelids camera for some years, maybe 10 years now. And we record, the system records the boats moving in and out. I have a lot of information on the frequency, the timing, the days that they are recording boats moving in and out. Would that information be of any interest to you guys?
Which access?
They.
I wouldn't say it wouldn't be. I'll just say I know that Bay gets, you're heavy with inspectors. You guys pay for a lot of expanded coverage. I know we didn't meet a lot of those hours last year. I'll just say I know we're already getting a lot of data on the Bay access, but we would take it. I don't know that we would analyze it currently, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Bay's already at the max or the high risk.
Yes.
If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got what you need. The other
Sure.
question I had was, so now that there are two of you working in this, is there one of you that we should be in contact when we have questions or issues or anything, or email both of you, or what would be the best thing to do there?
You could CC either of us in an email, and we could, if one of us isn't available, we could zoom get back to you.
Yeah, that's what we would like to promote, is when you contact us, you send it to both of them.
Okay.
And then we're gonna promote, they're gonna try to work very seamlessly if one's, let's say, off, or, we don't let anybody off in the summer, right? But that they both get it, and they're gonna work in tandem to make sure they get the information back, response. I just think it's gonna be so much, we're really hoping to cut down on any turnaround times too, or any gaps there and getting back to folks. Not if you email me, of course, you get a 10-day wait if you email me, but at least in this part of the department.
Well, the turnaround, at least for me, has been very good in the past year, so no concerns. Just, okay, so, and are the phone numbers on the screen now, are those cell numbers or those office numbers? What are they?
Their office numbers.
Okay, and that's how you'd like us to contact you?
Yeah, you can do it. Cell phone, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, we could probably send out the cell number too, when they're out in the, going out to the landings and stuff. There's a cell number too. You can get hold of them.
Only if you want us, calling you at Saturday night at 10 o'clock, but okay.
Well, they'll turn it off at that point probably, but.
Yeah, I'm sure.
we'll
So
be doing it.
send the cell numbers then, if you'd like us to use.
I could put them on the screen now.
Sure, yeah, add them to the screen right now. You have the ability to.
And we'll be doing a newsletter as well. I know we sent it out last year, like introducing myself, Nicole, and then who our lead was last year. So we will do that again with myself, all of our contact information. And if the lead is approved in the plan, who our lead is for the year. So you guys will get all that information then as well.
Oops, I'm not.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, at these fishing tournaments that we have, sometimes almost every weekend during the summer, can we have a decontamination unit there so they can use it? Would that be possible to request ahead of time?
That we're meeting with the DNR today to see exactly what the requirements are. That's why we're purchasing or proposing to purchase the second one, is because the one we currently have, we're only allowed to have at 5 landings. Rotate that throughout the summer. So once we find out from the DNR what the restrictions are on this proposed other decon unit with the reclaim mat, I know we can have it at a lot more landings as long as there's space. Now the reclaim mat is there. Once we figure that out for sure, we can let you know, but it should be available to most landings, and that is our plan, is to have that mobile decon at any fishing tournament or landings where we know there is a fishing tournament. So as much notice you can give us about fishing tournaments, the better.
So you're breaking up a little bit. I didn't get quite the last part of your answer.
It's not muted. You guys can at the same time. So you can-
I think we're good.
You can email me if that's fine.
Yeah, so, yeah, you're kind of cutting in and out as well, but
Nope.
the plan is to have that proposed new decon and go to more landings.
Okay, I got the gist of it. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, did you have another question or comment, or are you,
No, I did not. Thank you.
all right? Any other questions, comments from anybody else? And like they said, the comment period's open until February 6th. So obviously I took notes on today's, so I'll kind of include those when we present the plan to the board as well. And we'll get back to you on a few things that you brought up. Otherwise, that's all we have for you guys today.
Yeah, and we'll have this posted on the website, I believe. So if you have others in your organization or, association, you can say, oh, here's the link, watch it if they wanted to see it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks very much.
Should you go to staff recording? Yeah.
Who fixes the decon when it's down?
Diamond Industrial is the company we've been using.
Cause I think it was down more